Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Pam Groves-Gaggioli, current president of the St. John's Women of the ELCA, or as we like to call ourselves, WELCA. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Please feel free to help yourself to our buffet of coffee and treats provided by Rhonda Reese and Barb Coleman. Thank you, Rhonda and Barb. If everyone right now would please take a moment to silence your phones and texts. I'm looking to make sure everybody's taking their phone out and doing that. Thank you. As we gather tonight, I'd like to take a moment to read St. John's Land Acknowledgement. St. John's Church stands on the ancestral homelands of the Wapekute Band of the Dakota Nation. We respect and are grateful for the generations of Native people who have cared for this land. There are a few announcements before we get started. There are new WELCA books at the registration table describing WELCA's work here at St. John's and the contacts for our committees and special groups. There are also flyers of the upcoming Courageous Conversations programs. We do have a free will basket at the door. The funds help support our Courageous Conversations programming and many other outreach programs that the women of St. John's carry out throughout the world. WELCA maintains a fiscal independence from the church. Your donations are welcomed to help keep this wonderful outreach programming going. We thank you. Courageous Conversations is now in its 8th year. This year's theme is Creating Community for Common Good. The following thoughts shaped this year's program. A quote from Barbara Jordan, former U.S. House Representative, Texas. A nation is formed by the willingness of each of us to share in the responsibility for upholding the common good. And this from 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 25 and 26. There should be no division in the body, but its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. So, at this moment in time, with deep cuts in support systems funding and demoralizing rhetoric, we are called to create community for common good. We provide a space for finding common ground across differences and forming relationships to create a more just world for future generations. We believe that the shared principles of dignity and human rights are critical to both our faith communities and our democracy. Our monthly speakers will enlighten us on local and national implications for education, housing, healthcare, and the environment, along with the freedom of expression and equality. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize the members of our WELCA Justice and Education Committee that are responsible for putting together such an impressive slate of speakers this year. Joe Franklin, Dawn Tomerdahl, Jennifer Edwins, and Margie O'Laughlin. Thank you. Tonight's program is being recorded for our Courageous Conversations Library of Speakers, which you can find on the St. John's website. And now I'd like to call on Julie Zdenek, who will lead us in the invocation with Rhonda Reese as accompanist.
Good evening. Laughter and song are two quiet yet profound forms of resistance. Protest can be gentle, insistent on joy and hope and staying human. Laughter is resistance because it refuses to surrender to the spirit. Song is resistant because it gathers us. A single voice can tremble, but voices joined in song can become something unbreakable. to sing of peace, like we're going to sing tonight, the back of your bulletins. If we sing, plead for the peace of all creation, it's to declare that there is a different world possible. It is a place our feet are on holy ground, and we name Shanti Pax Shalom Mashala, peace in every tongue for every people. So as we sing, let us take our place in that long tradition of peaceful defiance, holding fast to the common good and daring to believe in grace. Sing with me, it's on the back of your bulletin. If you're hungry, thirsty, weary, common goods are meant to share. Tables set and doors wide open, welcome people everywhere. Plead for the peace of all creation. Pray for a place where grace is found. Shanti Pak Shalom Masla. Common good is holy ground. Genders, races, tribes, and nations, hear the Holy One who calls, bidding all to work together, bridging lives and breaching walls. Plead for the peace of all creation. Pray for the peace where grace is found. Shanti Pak Shalom Masla. Common good is holy ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie and Pam and Rhonda. I'm Jo Franklin. On behalf of the Courageous Conversations team, I'd like to first share that in the spirit of this year's theme, we wanted to be more intentional about creating community and having actual conversations, courageous conversations. So by singing together and taking the time to turn and talk, we hope to become more connected for all the reasons that Julie just mentioned. With that, I'm thrilled to welcome our guests tonight, who are a wonderful example of the power of community building to create change in the pursuit of fair and affordable housing, both here in Northfield and beyond. So first, I'd like to introduce Gina Washburn, who some of you may remember from a few years back when she spoke for Courageous Conversations about bearing witness at the southern border crossings. We're grateful to have her back tonight as our guest moderator. Gina has lived in Northfield for 36 years. She's a retired attorney and dedicates her time to social advocacy, focusing on the needs of our migrant neighbors as the chair of the First UCC's Immigrant Welcoming Ministry, and working extensively with the residents of Viking Terrace in their struggles with their new corporate owners. Currently, Gina is one of the organizers of Neighbors Supporting Neighbors Alert Line. So let's welcome Gina to the podium to introduce our two guest speakers. Welcome.
Good evening. It's just a pleasure to be here again and also to see so many people from the community, so many familiar faces who care enough about a topic of this nature to spend their evening with us. So blessings to you. So our speakers tonight are Kristi Purcell and George Zucolato. Kristi Purcell is the state representative for 58A, representing residents of New Prague, Lonsdale, Dundas, and Northfield, and the surrounding townships. She is in her second term as a legislator and previously as executive director of the Clean River Partners, a local clean water nonprofit working mainly on the Cannon River watershed. Joining Kristi this evening will be George Zucolato. George is an organizer with the Manufactured Home Residents Collective of Isaiah, Minnesota. He's a former Northfield City Council representative, a photographer, and an artist. His current work focuses on building bases of leaders in manufactured home parks within a geographic area, including Northfield, to stand up together and to fight for a 3% lot rent cap and to be an advocate for the needs of their communities. So we're going to have Kristi and George join us now at the podium, or at the seats up here, and they will begin their presentation.
I didn't look behind me, and I didn't see there's so many people here. Thank you guys for coming. Oh, check. Maybe I just need to be right by my mouth. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming. I've been scrambling in my brain because there's so much to say, and there's so many things that have been happening in Northfield. Maybe a quick bio on me. I grew up in this town. I moved here when I was 5. I moved here in 2000 along with a bunch of other immigrants from California, a lot of them from Veracruz, a lot of them specifically from a place named Maltrata. That's not where my family's from, but they're right by it. And so, and then I think in 2012 we moved over to Viking Terrace, which is the mobile home park here in town. And we needed more space from the little 2-bedroom apartment that we had moved in. That's why we moved to Minnesota in the first place. We needed more space. In California, in Orange County, where we lived, there was a lot of crime, a lot of things were already getting expensive there at the time. And so we came here to find a better life for ourselves, and we did. Found the community, found the education. I went through the Northfield education system. We moved to Viking Terrace. I have a brother, we got a little sister, so we needed more space, and it was great. It's been great. And then I remember, like around 2019, me and my dad were watching like John Oliver, and he had this segment about about mobile home parks, being bought up all over the country. And me and my dad looked at each other and we're like, that's gonna happen here. Like, I know that is. And the following year, in 2020, COVID and everything happened, I ran for city council with the supports of my family, my friends, the community. I won. And one of the big things that I wanted to fight for was affordable housing. Because we were there. I knew that what we had in Viking Terrace was only gonna last for so long. And little did I know that 1 year later in 2021, Lakeshore, this big private equity firm based out of Florida, bought us out and quickly increased rent, $60 again next year, and put on all these new lease agreements where they wouldn't allow a mother with an autistic son to have a little play pool for her son and toys there, trampolines, things like visitors. You had to sign in. They wanted us to sign in every visitor. They wanted the restrictions to be like from only people that live in the park from or no visitors allowed after like 10 p.m. something like that. It was all these crazy restrictions and rules. And so we got together with the help of Gina, with the help of people like Marvel de Cantos. We got together and we started a resident association. And we got in contact with the Attorney General. And it was kind of it's a reaction to what was happening because our park was already sold. We got notice of it. It was too late. We couldn't buy it. I know people like Mar, people like from North Country Cooperative, which I can talk about in a little bit here, but they're a foundation that gives money to people to mobile home parks for the ability for them to purchase the land and turn it into a cooperative. But that was too late for us. And so, but still we got together in a big church in Emmaus. and we started a resident association. My dad was the president. We had some other people, and it was like we're building kind of some sort of momentum, some real power. It kind of like showed me all these things that my community had, the support that my community had for my whole life kind of came together in those moments of being like, okay, the people in Northfield really do care, right? And the Attorney General came and he visited in Viking Terrace, and for a second there, he wrote them a letter and they backed off. But now it's 2025, and they've increased rent steadily every year, 60. So it was about like $450 when they took over. Now it's about $700. This year they charged us for water and sewage, and that's like a big fight that we're trying to fight right now, because people's bills range from $10 all the way to $150. And so the things that we're dealing with are numerous, because there's problems with infrastructure, there's problems with the policies that protect us, or the lack of policies that protect us. There's problems with the disconnects between the cities and the counties and the state, and how the funding goes and where it goes and how it can help people. But on the ground, people are trying to like live every day, pay those bills, get by. At this point now, try to avoid immigration. Like that's like a reality of people. And so you mix all this up, and now healthcare, right, is getting taken away from people, because about 80%, 75% of the park is Mexican, but about 20% of it is still white, and a lot of those are older white folks that are on disabilities, that are on Medicaid, that are on Social Security, or getting there, and are worried about this increasing cost to them. $70 soon. Soon, there's parks in Burnsville that are about $1,000 for just the lot, and then you own the manufactured home park itself. So when you're in it, at first it seems kind of like a very cheap solution for your living. Oh, we bought our home for like $15,000, and we started paying at like $300 lot rent. It was great. You could have a little piece of your own, a little backyard, and all these things. But as more and more of these corporations take over, and the rent starts going up, the cost of living just keeps going high, and your wages don't go up. Then you're just kind of floating, and you're just kind of treading water and trying to stay afloat. And I've been living in that, paycheck to paycheck mentality, and I know a lot of us have. So in City Council, we try to address a lot of it, but a lot of the things it's hard, because private equity has so much money, and they have so many lobbyists, and they have so many lawyers that make all these rules, and the rules are kind of built for them, and so there's only so much a town can do. There's only so much a county can do. So when I left City Council, or when I finished my term in 2020, at the end of 2024, I started working with Todd Lippert, who is an Isaiah organizer as well. And he was just like, hey, I understand what's going on with Viking Terrace. Let's work to get things together, because it kind of slowed down. The Resident Association wasn't meeting as much anymore. And he taught me really, like, what do you want? We need to build power, right? And so he kind of brought me on to this, this new kind of way of looking at things of, okay, there's these problems, but we gotta try to find some actual solutions for people to hold on to, because there's all these battles, and we're just trying to fight them, but we gotta pick the ones that we think we can win. And what we're trying to win right now, and Kristi will talk about in a little bit, is this 3% lot rent cap, which is making sure that every mobile home park across the state has a 3% lot rent cap, and so that only once a year the rent can go up 3%. Because right now, legally, they can raise the rent twice a year by however much they want. Well, the law says reasonable, but there's no, by it being reasonable, but there's no lawyer anywhere that wants to say what reasonable is. And so we're trying to put 3% as reasonable. And so that we're fighting. We're working on this, and I've been working with Todd, and officially I became an Isaiah organizer about a couple months ago in May, and we've been working on building, because I was so Northfield centric, and now I'm like, okay, this is not just, and this is a statewide problem now, but now I'm seeing this is just like John Oliver said in 2019, this is a problem for the whole country. This is affecting so many lives of people who are in this gray area. And we and a couple other states are trying to make things happen, because there's not much we can do, and people's lives are being ruined. And I'm seeing this as the more bases we build. I'm in Farmington, in Lakeville, we're in Burnsville now, I'm in Mankato, spending time talking to people, having one-on-ones, like getting coffee with them, like learning their stories about where they are. And everyone has such a similar story of where we are, of how we're just trying to keep our heads above water, and how we're just, trying to keep our dignity and keep sane with these landlords that have been putting all these rules and all these things on us. And so they use tactics to try to push people out, like, I was just talking to a resident over in Farmington the other day of her friend, who's a 70-year-old, got evicted from his home because he missed a payment, and he had already had an eviction before, and they had sent him a notice to fix a certain thing on, like, a skirting around his porch, and he didn't do that in time because he's, I think he's disabled, and he's a veteran of Vietnam, and he got evicted, and then first when he went to court, and they put you in a little room with their lawyers, and the lawyers, you get like a settlement agreement to try to pay off. And so the settlement agreement was pay your bills plus $300 each month in attorney fees and client and filing fees and all these things. And so they're just trying to run you dry and trying to kick you out. And now this guy, it's hard for me because this is like still so fresh. Is like, I got a message from Jolene, one of the leaders in Farmington, and this guy's friend, that he had a heart attack, and he's in the hospital, and they already evicted him, and they're taking possession of his home, And this is just like one of many stories I just hear of, like, all these people who are at, like, the edge of almost like society, like the fact that, like, sometimes I view mobile homes as like still like this is segregation from like the low income. I mean, take something like Viking Terrace of where it's at, like literally between two train tracks, behind the Dairy Queen, like kind of hidden, where if you didn't know Northfield, if you didn't know what that was, you probably wouldn't even ever go there, right? And so it's like we're fighting the battles of the economics and the battles of the stigma that are against us, that are say that, oh, that's only the poor people, that's only trailer trash that live there. Or like, oh, those are poor people. Oh, those people don't make good financial decisions because they live there. All these things. And it's like, no, we are just like everyone else. And we wanted a safe and dignified place to live. And we ended up living for these slumlords that are just taking us and using us as like ATMs. And so we're fighting in this, and we're building groups, and in each little park we have little teams. And I see some people from our team here in Viking in the back there. But we're working on it, and what we're trying to work on for this fall and winter coming up is to have some actions across the state. We're going to have the teams themselves, the leaders from the teams, residents from the parks themselves, are organizing to organize their neighbors to tell stories, and we're inviting our legislators and city hall representatives and all these people to come and to a meeting led by the residents and saying this is what's happening. We've already had a successful one here in Northfield. Kristi came, we had one in, I think it was like March. We had a big group of people. We had 150 people come to Emmaus. It was great, it was wonderful. But we're trying to do it again all over because this is such a big statewide effort, and the rents are so all over the place. If from Mankato, it's like $400 to closer to the cities, you get over $1,000 almost, for just the lot rent alone. And then people, if you own the home, that's one thing, you don't have to pay for that. But if you're a new owner, you're paying for $1,500, $1,200 for the home itself, either renting or purchasing it through them. And then you're paying the lot rent, which is still going up every year. And so you're kind of like trapped in this. There's mobile home parks in Mankato I've been to where a third of them were just empty, either from new homes that are just been put up and are waiting to get filled, or homes with eviction signs on them. And that's just normal now. People are getting kicked out, and the conditions of the homes are getting older, and there's just so many nuances and angles to this, because people deserve to be left alone and be able to afford to live in their home and the way they want to. And yet there's homes built in the 70s that weren't built to last more than 30 years. And people are struggling with that now, and then they can't afford to go anywhere else. And then if you're adding on to that an undocumented status, just think about the layers and layers of complexity of how it comes to this, And so many people I know some people are choosing to self-deport because the things are just getting so numerous, or just choosing to leave, maybe going to somewhere like Faribault where the rent is still under $500. But even then, we go over there and we know that the rent's going to go up and up and up, and they know it too. And so there's no place for us to leave. So what we're trying to do, though, at Isaiah is build power for people and give them a community in a sense of that we can do something, that we can actually get together and organize. Because what we say as Isaiah, as an organization, is that there's power is two things. It's money, it's organized money, and it's organized people. And they have a lot of organized money, but we're trying to get a lot of organized people. And there's about 80,000 people that live in manufactured home parks across the state. And we have gone across, I think it's about almost 34 mobile home parks from across the state, and gathered over 5,000 signatures for this 3% lot rent cap that we're trying to do, and building teams small, and trying to fight for this 3% lot rent cap and get them organized, get them in front of the legislators to let them know what's been happening. And each little park has their own thing. Here, we're trying to fight, issues with our water bills, issues with our homes that have been deteriorating. In places like Queen Anne and Lakeville, they have water that is just filled with sediment, and so they say if you fill the water with the glass with water, at the end of the day you can see the sediment of the water at the bottom. There's places like Farmington where the people are getting kicked out. I just went over to Sunny Acres in Bloomington and had a meeting. 50 residents came in. Out of those, 10 people raised their hands because they have a court date in the next month for eviction. So 1 out of 5 of those people had a court date, or had been evicted in the last couple of months, or been tried to be evicted. And so every park has a problem, but we're trying to get people together and see that within themselves there's safety, within numbers, within your residents, and there's ways for you to vocalize your opinions and turn that anger from a hot anger of you being so upset, oh, these people, I can't believe what they're doing is wrong. It's yes, of course they're wrong, but they have so much money and so much power. What can we do to solve it? This 3% is something statewide that we can all latch on to, a big effort, but we also have the ability to influence our own communities, of going to City Hall and being hey, this is happening, advocating for ourselves. And I think that's also the biggest obstacle when it comes is feeling you have the agency and the power to advocate for yourself in a world that is that so often takes that away, or negates it because there's other things happening. And it's to get the work I'm doing is also both sides of the spectrum, because people I work with are it's funny in Blaine where there's so many manufactured home parks, you'd see signs for Trump and then signs for the Democratic representative there, Matt Norris, because he cares so much about the people, and he understood that the manufactured home parks were such a key player in what he wanted to do, and so he went over there and actually door knocked and got them and worked on this 3% lot rent cap. And so you'd see signs for him and Trump. And that's what is kind of so amazing about our base too. It makes it difficult, but it's also so amazing that we can reach across the spectrum, because this is about, you know, people who are a lot of the time below the poverty line or just right at it and have been working and suffer. It doesn't matter who they vote for, they suffer because of the decisions that people make or the decisions that people don't make. And so to finally get them politicized and going and working in like a system that has kind of shunned them is like, and to see them become leaders and to want to speak and organize and get people to meetings and get talking to representatives and have relationships with them. And even like the 3% lottery cap was made by a resident from one of the mobile home parks in Blaine, Gwen, when she just said this wasn't right. And so she got with a representative and made this happen. And now she's got this whole group of teams all over the place trying to like make sure that the thing that she envisioned in her mobile home park is actually happening, and we're working towards that. So, you know, for Isaiah, we have all these actions coming up. Then in December, we're going to have this big convention where we have around 5,000 people from all over our organization, from the Muslim Coalition, the Black Barbershop Coalition, the Black Clergy, all these people. We're going to meet and ratify our agenda and make sure that we're going to make sure the 3% lottery cap is on there, everything else, you know, make sure freedom of speech for Gaza is in there, all these things that people are fighting for. You know, more rights and more one of the big things is, and it's all connected to like childcare. It's like a big thing. People are paying too much for childcare. People are paying too much for housing. People are paying too much for health care. And it's all just crushing people. We're trying to like, if you guys know Mr. Weinman, I think that's his name, from the middle school. One of the things he always told me that stuck in my mind was that when you're whitewater rafting in Colorado, they have this sign. It says, you have to be an active participant in your own rescue. And I think about that and I tell people, it's like, we're in this, but we have to be an active participant in our own rescue. Look for that life raft, you know, put it on you. Listen to instructions and like pull yourself out, because if you're just waiting in the water for someone to help you, no one's gonna come. You know what I mean? You have to actually be there and attentive. And I feel like if we're actually gonna have to pull ourselves out of the situation, that sometimes with all the things that I'm telling you feels like it's the weight of the world. Like we have to be willing to collaborate and pay attention and go out there and go out of our way to actually be active participants in our own survival. So that's all I got for right now, but I'm sure Kristi can tell you more about the higher side. Oh, and we have some slides here. Huh? Oh, thank you. And yeah, we got some slides here. This is from the meeting in March that we had, where we had over 150 people, residents and community members come, and we had the mayor there, and Peter Dahlin, and Kristi there, and we invited our Senator Aliski there, but he did not show up. We called him, and we called him because he wasn't there, and we were very sad you couldn't come. Yeah, and if you want to go to the next couple of slides, that's like one of the community meetings, one of the first ones as a Isaiah organizer that I led over at Emmaus. If you want to go to the next one. And this is a group of us, we door knocking over in Viking Terrace. And so a lot of this, I mean, the work isn't just me, it's like all the community, and it has to be to make sure that this is possible. So I'm really like glad that, you know, the community's still out there and still cares, and I think we still have a lot of work to do, but I'm really excited. Oh, and that's when we went to the Capitol. We had a big lobby day at the Capitol in April. And we had over like around 200 residents from all over the state.
I think this is just the Viking.
But this is just
folks.
this is just the Viking folks on that day.
The next one might be more of the whole group.
Yeah.
So this is just a portion of the whole group of folks that came from all around the state. And I don't know if there's a picture at a podium, but it's Matt Norris, and I got to stand beside him. It's fine if it's not there. So I'm State Representative Kristi Purcell. Thank you all for coming out here. I wanted to make sure George went first because everything starts from the community, and I always think that the people who are closest to the problem or the issue are also closest to the solution. So I'm just here riding on the coattails of people who are organizing in community, and happy to be a conduit to take those messages, those petitions, that work that is coming from our community, and try to put that into action at the state level to help other communities. So I'm not going to go too deeply into my kind of opening spiel, because I do want this to be a conversation. There's a lot of knowledge in this room right here. I will just say, it's a little bit of context setting. I guess I've started saying this because I like the reaction it gets, because this is often shocking to people. If we've hung out recently, maybe you've heard me say this, but you may have heard me on the radio at KYMN. You may have seen me behind the bar at Imminent Brewing, and people are surprised to see me. And I pay not quite 1/2 of my salary to rent in Northfield. So for me, as a public servant, my salary is public information, which, thank you, by the way, you pay my salary, I work for you. But as a single parent in Northfield, I cannot afford to live in my district. So I'm a renter of a big old house, but I would be considered housing insecure, because you're not supposed to pay more than 1/3 of your monthly expenses, and that's, just in the rent alone. So I'd like to just say that if people often think, oh, you're an elected person, you must be really rich or be really powerful, but you'll see and hear me working at least 2 other jobs. Sometimes there's a 3rd one in there too. But just a context set for you. And this is not unique just to our community. This is everywhere. But I also really believe that we are the ones we've been waiting for. So thinking about Mr. Weinman's, you have to be a participant in your own saving. Like, it's us. It's all of us in this room. And I think especially in this moment, I talk to a lot of people who feel powerless. And what an opportunity for us to have this conversation, and for all of us to invite each other in to being powerful and using our power for good. I know I used to think power, kind of had a negative connotation because of abuse of power, because of, the rich and powerful. But actually, people power is beautiful. And that's what this is tonight. And it's my honor and privilege to get to represent all or most of you in St. Paul. And, I see that as my job, and my privilege is that I work for you. So with this many of us, I believe in people power, and that we're the folks that we can rise to this moment. So I'm very interested in our conversation and our dialogue, and thank you so much for being here.
So before we hit the turn and talk concept, Kristi, would you give us a brief understanding of that manufactured home park legislation that you are co-authoring? It's generally referred to, or generically referred to, as like a rent cap legislation, and that's just one component of it. It's been introduced in more than one legislative session. Kristi's a co-author, as I've indicated, and that's part of what we want you all to become familiar with and to participate in the passage of.
So, thank you, Gina. So we're in the middle of a 2-year biennium, and so this bill exists already. You can look up all the details if you're nerdy like that. It's House File 2381, and as amended with the A7 amendment, there's really a lot of parts to this, but it caps that lot rental fee. So folks may own their own home, but you are paying rent for the ground on which it sits. So you're basically, you may own a home or you may be, renting or paying for the home, and separately for the ground that it sits on. So it's capping that reasonable increase at 3% once a year. Because what we saw happen is that people were increasing it multiple times a year and calling 6% reasonable. And so getting in plain language, 3% once a year. So that's kind of the most easily quantifiable. There's just more accountability measures, like the park owners must provide a written explanation of why a rent increase is needed. Changes in rent increase, there's also, they've been jacking up late fees. So late fees capped at no more than 8%. Park owners must provide alternative methods of payment rather than just a digital platform. Let's see. There's some things about utilities and maintenance, because what we see a lot of, I know when I first went, when I was at the Clean Water nonprofit, I got to go to the DWSMA, the Drinking Water Supply Management Area meeting, and I learned, the number one water user in our community is Post. Makes sense, they're processing food. The number 2 water user was St. Olaf. That makes sense, there's one place, there's 3,000 people living there. Carlton was not number 3 because they have their own wells. Number 3 was Viking Terrace. And that's only because the infrastructure is so leaky, it's so not maintained. And the city said, years and years and years and years ago, the condition that infrastructure was in, if that would have been city property, legally by law, they would have had to fix it. But because it's a private entity, it's privately owned, they did not need to fix it. And the amount of water, so then this goes to now that the water is being monitored for each home. If you happen to have really leaky pipes going to your home, you're paying hundreds of dollars in water. That's not great for our aquifers and our drinking water, because water might come up, go, leak out through the pipes, and then take whatever's in the soil back down into the aquifer with it. So not only is it expensive, it's not great environmentally. So trying to have some limits on some of those. We heard stories of folks who didn't have any lawn, but the private company was charging them $200 a month for lawn maintenance. Clarifies sort of who's responsible for what, and then the opportunity to purchase is really kind of the third big tenet of this manufactured home, Bill of Rights, we call it. And so you need to have 60 days written notice prior to sale so that residents can have time to get organized, maybe form a cooperative and try to purchase. The explanation for the reasons for the rejection of the offer if the owners don't sell it to the residents. And I was looking at some background that someone at the house sent me, and I was reading this out loud to George, and he's very cool about it. Maybe he knew this already, but I was shocked to my core and actually felt a little bit ill that there are 12 companies, because now private equity is getting into the business of owning these. There are 12 companies who own 1,200 mobile home parks in the country. It just literally makes me ill. And there's, some guy who has get rich quick, invest in this real estate, and basically, doing exactly what we're seeing to our neighbors in Viking Terrace and all over the state, which is, a few people who are in the private equity boardroom get rich by bleeding families dry and making it unlivable for folks. So what inspired me to co-author the bill is I love my neighbors, and my very first campaign was right when we were getting the Attorney General involved, because there was very shady dealings that Lakeshore was doing. And so it's a no-brainer for me. This is has been one of the last sort of naturally occurring affordable housing options that there are in communities. And that's rapidly it's rapidly no longer the case. And people need homes and people need dignity. And I attended a Minnesota Senate hearing that was at the Ole store this afternoon, and it was ostensibly about health care. And yet we kept snaking back to housing. And these things are intricately connected. We can't actually separate that people need to have dignity and safety to live. And these things, they're all connected. And what we're seeing, especially federally, messages that are dehumanizing people. And therefore, then it's okay for people to not have housing or food or health care. Like, it is absolutely criminal. And so there are things that we can do at the state level that I encourage all of you to support. We haven't had a very willing partner in our state senator, but like at that Emmaus meeting, he got 150 voicemails when he came into the office on Monday, because we all called him. And I emailed him and I said, "Hey, Bill, sorry we missed you. I'd be happy to chat with you, you know, what I heard at this meeting when y'all came up to the Capitol." I accepted the petition of, signatures of my constituents asking me to support this legislation, and he couldn't be found. We went into I can't go into the Senate retiring room, but I sent a senator in there. Nope, he went home for the day. So there's accountability for your elected officials to making sure that we are working for you and that we're doing what we can for our constituents, and that's you. So I look forward to the dialogue, and I want to thank, there's city folks here, there's county folks here, there's housing experts, there's organizers, there's so much expertise in this room right here, right now. We certainly don't pretend to have all the answers, but thank you, thank you.
And contextually, I'm sure that everybody in this room knows that the homes in Viking Terrace, for example, in Riverside, which was originally called Fiorella's, they're referred to generically as mobile homes, and that's really dates back to about the 1970s or maybe earlier. And they're not mobile because they're so decrepit at this particular point in time that they cannot be mobile, they cannot be taken out of the park. So when these individuals are unable to pay the fees and so forth, they are evicted and they're homeless. And so that's why we're so concerned about this. The more contemporary versions of these homes are referred to as manufactured homes. So just so that you understand the language, the mobile homes are really the very old ones. We're going to do a quick turn and talk, a few minutes, have you just talk amongst yourselves at the table and discuss what it is that you've heard. Ask a few questions amongst yourselves, like, is there things that you heard that you were surprised to hear? What is it, what else would you like to know? And so just talk amongst yourself for a few minutes, and then we're going to have you ask some questions of our speakers. And please write your questions down on the cards.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, that's Logan's job. See, I'm used to being on committee, and you never know what camera's getting what angle, so, and my
Okay, peeps, let's keep this rolling. Campers, happy campers. All right, do we have people have had a chance to talk amongst yourselves a bit? Think through some of the information that you've heard. So should I just run around and collect them, Joe? Run around and collect? Yeah, if you wrote anything down. I mean, Elizabeth did not write anything down.
It's not too late. Write it down. Look, I accidentally brought the water bottle with your tab. I have my other water bottle has the green one with the sweet face. Yeah, please. There's two.
All right, while you're getting yourselves resettled, well, that's an obvious question. Okay, I'll hang on to that one. One of the questions is, why are the property owners, in this case it would be Lakeshore Management, not held accountable for the infrastructure on their own?
I might try to phone a friend and ask someone at the city. I'm looking at City Administrator Martig, but maybe he's not the person for that. I mean, they're not doing anything illegal, is the short answer. Nope, it doesn't make sense. I don't know if there's more. Okay. Okay, can we run a microphone out to this person?
All right, thank you. So Claudia Garcia, I'm the Spanish translator at the City of Northfield. And what the answer usually is because it's a private property. So they don't really have jurisdiction for that mobile home park. So there were some, since they hadn't had inspections over a long span of time, the city did end up doing inspections with the help of some interns and some other city folk to go in there and do kind of their due diligence as far as we could where the law would allow us. So that's kind of like the short answer.
That's correct. They don't really have any legal obligation to improve that infrastructure. So that's true. Did you want to ask a question?
I think this is a related question. So with all these rent increases, they're collecting a lot more money. And is all that money just going to the wealth of the owners, or are they improving the property at all? And
I think, does this work? Yeah. Some research that we have at Isaiah is that I think the last numbers that we saw were across the country, I think 70% of the money that they take in goes back into their pockets and only 30% goes into operating costs. And that seems about right by the amount of time that they put into our parks and stuff like that. There's also numerous amount of grants and federal grants and state grants that they can get in order to do infrastructure to even spend as like less money on the parks. So yeah, I think a lot of it does go back into a lot of guys in Florida with yachts and, you know, other wealthy friends.
With regard to the comment that George just made with regard to state monies, there are some pretty substantial state monies that are available for manufactured home park infrastructure improvement. Lakeshore has been approached on more than one occasion by us to apply for those monies and has patently refused because one of the contingencies in the allocation of those monies requires them to keep the rent affordable, which they refuse to do. So they've never applied for infrastructure money. Okay, I have another question. Can you please explain what level of government has the power, if I get this right, has power with housing loans? What? Is that right? Housing laws. Oh, housing laws. What level of government has power with housing laws? Local, state, or county?
I'm looking at Counselor Sokup over there. So our city councilor at large, Davin Sokup, has worked on housing at the state level when he worked for Senator Lindsey Port, who became the housing chair in the Senate.
I think there can be housing law at all levels of government. For example, in the city, we have multiple housing ordinances, but they can't violate state law, if that makes sense. And it goes up the chain from there. So, for example, when you're talking about the 3% or the Bill of Rights, the 3% lot cap being a statewide law would be incredible, because otherwise you're trying to piecemeal it community by community, and companies like Lakeshore, et cetera, have a lot more power to kind of overwhelm like a city government. You know, we're pretty bare bones. So when you advocate for laws more at the state level, I think it has a lot more impact. I don't know if that's helpful, but the opportunity to purchase being in that Bill of Rights, I didn't know that. That's really exciting. Yeah, because that's been, when I worked at the state, there was a big push for that. It ultimately failed. These, you know, to a group like this, these laws sound like common sense, but they're really, really hard to get across the finish line. And so anything that a group like us can do to advocate is super helpful.
And I will just say, the reason why we're still talking about that Bill of Rights bill is because it didn't pass. It didn't get a hearing. And when people ask what the barrier is, you know, when something sounds like common sense, or I was talking to students and they were like, why isn't the law about, you know, X, Y, or Z, why isn't that based in the science that says X, Y, or Z is the best? And I say, politics. Sadly, that's the reality. And that day at the Capitol where so many people, it was literally like one of the most beautiful days at the Capitol this last session, which was hard before June 14th. But like, there were 3 of us state reps up on the stage. There are 201 legislators in the state of Minnesota. 2/3 of them are in the House of Representatives with me, where we have a tie, 67 Democrats and 67 Republicans. There are folks who, our former Senator Rich Draheim is all about manufactured home parks. But he doesn't want us to have any regulation on the park owners, because he wants that to be an opportunity for some people to build wealth on the backs of other people. So there's often strange bedfellows, but I will say right now, my caucus, the DFLers in the House, and those that I know of in the Senate, we don't have a majority of people who will support this. I think there's one member of my caucus who doesn't have any manufactured home parks in her district. She represents Edina. But everyone else does. And so these are often communities who already feel marginalized, who already feel like, you know, you're just paycheck to paycheck, you're just hand to mouth, if that's the phrase. And so taking all this time, you know, to organize and to make a noise, to try to get organized people to fight the organized money, it's tough. And when people do show up and tell their legislators, this is important to me because X, Y, Z, because this is my neighbors, because my kids don't know if they'll ever be able to buy a home. I mean, I hear, you know, people who are boomers say, like, you know, I don't know if my kids will ever be able to build wealth or own a home, or whatever your reason is. We need to get more people to care about this issue, because this does impact all of us and all of our communities.
George, do you happen to know, one of the questions was, when an individual's evicted from their home here in the mobile home park, do they get any money for the home? And where do they go? Yeah, people that get evicted, because they own the mobile home, right? You know, they own the manufactured home. They pay the lot rent. They pay for the dirt, and that's why paying $600, $700, $800, or $1,000 a month for dirt is so offensive. But they own that home. But when they're evicted, they lose the home because they can't move it, right? It's not mobile. So do they get any money for the home?
No, and then I think legally they have about 60 days to sell it. Legally, they have about 60 days to sell their home, but I'm also seeing in other communities, in other places where they're denying that and saying it's 24 days with the amount of time that they say, while the ink dries, it's 24 days, and then to get, so people are not getting the proper amount of time to even sell their home, so a lot of the times they just leave them abandoned, and then the mobile home park just takes control over it and demolishes it. So no, people are not getting money for it. And a lot of times they're not able to move it because either it's too old or it costs $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 to move it, and then a lot of mobile home parks won't allow a home older than 20 years in the park.
So just in the interest of time, there's just like a myriad of questions that I'm sure you have. I've got quite a good stack here. But part of what we want to do tonight is not only just inform and obviously alarm you, which is part of our intention, is to also move you to action, because we need help in getting this kind of legislation passed. I mean, we're not just going to sit here and just give you more information to live with and walk out the door, because the people that live in the park are not, I can just say from experience, not really schooled and skilled in some of this activism. This is a new world for them to live in. They don't necessarily feel empowered to have a voice and to step out into the legislature and, bring forward their stories, as compelling and important as they are. And they're also under siege right now because of the current administration. So think about how hard that must be for individuals to self-advocate at a time when they are at great risk. So we need you in this particular endeavor. When does the session start?
February 17th.
And is it a short or a long session?
Short. It'll only be 3 months long.
Is it a budget session or not?
It's not a budget session.
Okay, so now you got it, right? You know when it starts, you know it's short, and it's not a budget session. So it does mean that you can hit some policy issues. This particular legislation has to go through at least 2 committees per body. So in the House and in the Senate, it has to move through a housing committee and I believe a commerce committee. Is that correct? And so that's in the House. Similarly, in the Senate, it has to move through those 2 bodies. And then it goes in for reconciliation, right, and votes. So it has a very long trajectory towards reaching the desk of the governor. And it's already been through at least, 2 sessions? Has it?
The desk of the governor is another matter as well.
How many sessions has this been through, though?
This iteration is just this session, which is why Davin didn't know about it, because, yeah.
So what we want to know from these 2 is what is it that you guys can do? That's the call to action.
Okay, I have one idea. So if all of you are my constituents, you got me. I'm on board. I'm a co-author. You probably have friends and family who live other places in Minnesota. Next time you have brunch or go for a walk or are hanging out with family, especially if there's something shocking that you learned today, which I did too, share this information. And because this is a statewide, it's a nationwide problem. I mean, just this week, the PUC approved sale of a Northern Minnesota power company to private equity. Private equity is buying up our nursing homes, our hospitals, our housing. Things are about to get it's about to get a lot worse than it is right now. And so you can talk to people who are in other districts to encourage them to just, even if they're represented by a Democrat, almost likely that Democrat doesn't know or doesn't support yet this legislation. Maybe because they don't know about it. I'm trying to do my work under the dome to talk to my colleagues about this, but please, it's really a matter of human dignity and all the other things that are connected to housing. That's one idea I have.
And then another simple thing is that if you go to isaiahmn.org/MHRC, which is the Manufactured Home Residence Collective, you guys can, even if you don't live in a mobile home park, sign our petition, and there's a little box that you can check that I don't sign in the mobile home park, but I still support it. And you guys can get signed up for the petition and then keep hearing about the things that we've been doing all over the state. There's always, we're going to have, there's always meetings and stuff like that going on and trainings. And Isaiah is a great organization too that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And there's things that you can plug in with, and with many other things that you can be alongside the Manufactured Home Residence Collective in your own way if you're interested in healthcare and child care services, all these things. There's always a pathway for you guys. I know I see a couple Isaiah members here.
Do you need to say it again?
George, should I get that? Is it
/MHRC. Yeah,
Okay,
Manufactured Home
got
Residence
that
Collective.
right. Okay, this is the site. So we're going to have you talk at your table for a couple more minutes. Talk about what it is that you feel like you can do, and what is it that you're willing to commit yourself to with regard to action. And then we'll ask you to talk about that a bit.
Like the different organizations like who funds help with repairs and stuff, is that printed in that program that people can use? Yeah. Is that in the brochure?
I'm the Isaiah, or one of the Isaiah organizers here. Great. Kind of got sort of a slow start to it, but we're getting some. Yeah. You want me to mention it on Saturday? Yeah. They point me out. Ron? Yeah, Ron. Okay. I'll point you out. You can say some more details about it. Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay. I just take orders from the elected, like from the people. Like I'm not organizing the people. Sure. So when the people come already organized, then I listen,
How do they tie into you when you put out a call?
I think that's the hard thing. Yeah, I think that's good because I think too a lot of the times that we're trying to do is just get our people together. So I think I'm trying to wrap around that. How do we
I know.
Yeah.
I'll look it up in a second.
All right, people, we're going to bring our thoughts back. And so just in this little quick interval, I'm trying to kind of nail down some suggestions for you, okay? And so what George was telling you earlier is that this website, isaiah.org, MHRC, which is mobile home what? Residence Collective, which he's the staff person for. He basically said that if you go there, you'll find out information. There's a petition, for example, in support of the legislation, and other announcements related to it. Okay, so that's the reason that he's got this up here. And then very quickly, I asked Kristi to give us a couple of suggestions, one of which is for you guys to know what the House file number is for this bill that we're talking about. If you want to know about that, that's what the House file number is. And the Senate file number is here for you, so you know what it is if you want to look it up and track it, because you can track this stuff. Oh, sorry, House file 2381, Senate file 2691. That's the mobile home Bill of Rights legislation. So I think you're probably fully capable of going online and following what's happening in the legislature. What Kristi also suggests is that you take down the phone number for the state senator, he's a Republican, Bill Liskey, who is absent, unfortunately, and frequently, whenever we want to talk about stuff like this. So this is Bill's phone number. It's 651.
His office phone number, you can leave a voicemail, because he works for you too.
Yeah.
Encourage him to sign on to the Senate bill number.
2691. 651 296 5019. And oftentimes when I call a legislator, I make sure that they know that I'm a constituent. And this is a topic of concern to me, and I want to see him joining with his colleagues across the aisle to pass this legislation. And we could provide you with scripting, but I think you're probably capable of taking care of that. Real quick, I have somebody that really wanted me to ask this question of Kristi, so I'm gonna have to ask it. What's the status of the state water plan? How might it impact a municipal sub-metering ordinance?
There's a lot. Today I was in New Brighton because the state drinking water action plan was released, and our community falls in kind of a weird little middle space where we don't really do water treatment before we drink our water, and the costs, and there are state funds and opportunities, and then the net metering is kind of a separate deal that I am not going to be able to speak eloquently about right now, but if this is your question, come talk to me and we will find out the answer together.
Could we also pass it to Ron in the flannel shirt over there, who's a member of Isaiah, and we have a meeting coming up for, because the work that I'm doing with the Manufactured Home Residence Collective is mostly for Manufactured Home Residence Collective, but we have lots of other members that are doing fabulous stuff.
Okay. I'm Ron Hebensberger. I'm a member here at St. John's, and I'm one of the organizers of the Isaiah group here at St. John's. And if you're interested in joining our group, please talk to me, and I can give you information about the events we have coming up and get you signed up on our mailing list. I just created the mailing list today, and so I'm kind of getting names added to it, and I have a lot of names already, but talk to me and I can get you signed up. And if you're interested in, there's an event coming up this Saturday in Rochester. I know it's very short notice. It's a small town summit, but we're working on putting together a legislative agenda so that when it comes time to endorsing candidates like Kristi, which she's been really on board with Isaiah, as you can tell, but that'll be on Saturday at the Congregational UCC. talk to me. I can give you details about it, and it'll be about 3 hours in Rochester, but see me afterward and I can give you details on what to do.
9:30 to 12:30. There's another group that Gina did a little digging today. Three Rivers is an organization locally that does housing, and they provide weatherization and things for people's homes. Winter is unfortunately around the corner, so trying to better insulate people's homes and make them at least a little bit more energy efficient. So that's an organization that you can donate to as well.
Yeah, 3rivers.org, Community Action Projects. It's 3 Rivers CAP. They have what's called a mobile home rehabilitation program. One particular person, Jansen Gonzalez, is the staff person, and so he has in the entire Rice County, and he has 9 mobile home parks that he's responsible for assisting with rehabilitation. So that's a big, big job for that person, in addition to the kind of stuff that George is doing. So it's good to pay attention. The other thing that's happening is that because of the water sewer bills that are now being imposed on the residents of Viking Terrace specifically, there has been an effort in the city to pass an ordinance. 1085 is the ordinance number. Just had a reading this past week and was passed unanimously by the council for further readings, and then it'll move through its lifespan, hopefully to passage. But it is an effort to put into code, city code, or codify state statutes that allow the city to have some authority over the water sewer fees that are being imposed on the residents. So if you ever want to know more about that, you can ask me about it, and I'm happy to give you a copy of the legislation. But it was discussed at the council Tuesday and is moving forward through the process. So it'll give them some the authority of the city to audit, to inspect, and even issue corrections if they find that the bills that are being imposed on residents are inaccurate and excessive. So that's another point of order. So before we're going to let you go here in a minute, but call out, I'm just going to do a quick call out. What are some of the action steps that you guys, what are you ready for? What do you got the appetite for? I want to hear what some of you people are going to be doing after you leave here. Talk to this gentleman, flood him on the way out the door, okay? He's got that radio voice. What else? Call it out.
Well, I don't understand if the city can impose some rules on water use, why can't they impose rules on these leaky pipes? I just don't understand why there's no jurisdiction, either the city, the townships, or the county, that not to allow that kind of waste of our water.
Ben, you want to explain the difference between pipes that go from the city's water main into the park and the jurisdiction of the city? That's what you get for coming.
Oh, okay, I'll try and take it one at a time. And I have a lot of staff that are the experts, so sometimes I'm at a higher level on the details, so I sometimes need to do some follow-up on that. But the question on the internal, most of the jurisdiction is to a property line, and again, unlike single-family homes or properties that they have, again, since it's private inside the park, we have less control. I'm going to do a follow-up with staff, though, on the details of the question, because now that we did actually have our second reading of that ordinance, so it's going to be going into effect in 45 days, I believe, is the as a period we have to wait legally for our ordinances. Then we'll be able to ourselves require an audit of the water bills of all the residents should we ask for that. And there's also a provision that if the city doesn't initiate one, a certain percentage of residents can request an audit as well that can trigger it. That will allow us to compare those bills from all of the homes to the main, which would then allow us to identify if there are leaks, there should be leaks between the two. I think one good side of the metering is they should be able to verify that the meter in the water that they're paying at their home is actually what they have. However, if they have leakage between the two, I don't believe there's anything legally we can do related to them collecting through like lot fees if they have lost water or something, but that's another issue I need to check on to verify that. But yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it's interior. Did everybody hear that? The frustration was how can you not have the infrastructure within it working well? I'm going to check to make sure, but one thing that's unique is for mobile home parks is unlike the city for mobile home parks have special legislation where most of the maintenance responsibilities and enforcement fall under the state of Minnesota, and my perception is they're grossly understaffed and funded for that. So again, our jurisdiction is much more limited for mobile home parks interior to the parks on what the city can do. Ask the lawyer. Can I add one more thing? Yeah, absolutely. One of the good parts of the legislation was that when the city sees that an individual home is having unusual water issues, the city can now contact that individual and give them at least sort of the information they need to correct the problem that will hopefully relieve it. And that wasn't previously something that was able to.
And that's absolutely correct. There is now a concerted effort on the part of the city staff in the utilities department. They've even prepared a video for the residents. I don't know if it's in Spanish, so we got to find that out. But they have prepared a video explaining to residents how to understand potential sources of leaks, like the flapper in the water in the toilet, for example, that might be running continuously. So that's actually starting. So thank you very much for that, Matt. Yeah, Galen. County Commissioner Galen.
So it's regulated under the Department of Health for the state of Minnesota, mobile home parks are. And yes, I'm guessing because they're grossly understaffed. Yep. So, and Gina can attest to this, on the county level, I tried to get legislation on a county level for rent caps and for first right of refusal on ownership, that they had to give the residents 120 days to work in good faith with the current owners before it was sold to somebody else to form a co-op. And we have a county attorney that did not understand our state statutes, and he kept telling us that there was law already in place. And Gina, being an attorney, we met with all of them. They don't understand it, and they kept telling us, and Gina's like, no, because we had that Zoom meeting with the commissioners, with Margaret Callahan. Yep, and I didn't get any traction from my fellow commissioners. So we move on to a state level and trying to work hard on a state level. I had sounded the alarm before even Viking Terrace had gotten sold. Kept telling my fellow commissioners and at our county meetings, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's happening on the East Coast, it's happening on the West Coast, it's happening in Michigan, and sure enough, Lakeshore. So I kept sounding the alarm again and again and again that to this Faribault City Hall staff and council people, and at various housing meetings that you've been on with me, and sure enough, what happens? They bought a mobile home park in Faribault and Morristown. Different company, Gina and I tried to go backwards and find who owns it. We think it's a subsidiary of Lake Shore, but we're not 100% sure. So it's happening, and it's going to happen. And guess what? They're now starting to buy up apartment complexes. As I've been doing my research, reading my articles, they've been doing the same tactic. They've been evicting people for being a day late on their rent. They get them out, they jack the price up, just like they're doing at the mobile home parks. They're going to continue, as somebody had said, BlackRock just bought Minnesota Power up in the northern Minnesota. It's going to continue. What's going to happen to their rates up there? They're going to go up, 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 up. And so our federal and our state legislatures, we have to figure out how we stop this. And we have to work collectively as a group to work with our legislatures to stop it. The legislatures that don't have mobile home parks in their communities don't understand it. Administrator Martig was just telling me he was at a meeting today, right, with fellow administrators prior week. And what did they tell you?
I was just saying that I wasn't able to make it by Isaiah was a speaker, but I was impressed that they had over, I think, 20 cities that were participating, and I'm doing some follow-up, and I'm hoping that leads to more collective action, because the more we can share with each other, the better.
Right. So they're buying up mobile home parks across Minnesota. So anyway, just a little more info.
Yeah, we don't want this to be a county-by-county solution because it will be too piecemeal. So that's why we want this legislation to go through. And so you are forearmed, right? Does that work for you? And we're expecting that we will have all sorts of wonderful things coming from all of the people in this room. Claudia, did you have something to say? Sure.
I don't know.
Oh, she asked how many, if we know how many families have already been evicted from Viking Terrace, and I'm not sure of do you know?
Well, when I was working with one family, I had heard at the time, 2023, there were 7 families that were evicted. The family that we were working with was the 8th. They were not evicted because housing coordinator Melissa Hampton and myself were advocating for the families inside the court, help them navigate how to, set up an account with the county, how to request an interpreter, and advocating with the Minnesota state statutes, which our housing coordinator is very highly educated on. But yeah, we were there advocating. The judge didn't know the Minnesota statutes. They didn't know the rights that the mobile home residents had, which was really, it was a shock to us that they were, evicting people without knowing their rights.
And to that point, our city building official, Mike Morehouse, and our city housing coordinator, Melissa Hanson, have been working with Three Rivers, for example, when homes are identified as condemnable. The obligation of the city, of course, is that the individuals now are going to be worked with to try to relocate them. And so that's an effort that the city's going into. So there are some, there's some people that are really trying to create some solution sets. So I think we're about done. We're past our time. I don't want to keep you any longer, but I do expect to see something happen.
So I just want to give, again, thank you so much for all of you for being here and for our wonderful speakers. And let's blow up that phone number, huh? I just wanted to give you a glimpse of invite you back for next month. Our speaker is here in the audience, Charlie Mandile from Health Finders Collaborative in Rice and Steele counties. And he is going to be talking about creating responsive quality health care in our community. So another big topic that we will be tackling next month, and we invite you all back on November 6th, same time in this room. Thank you.
So thank you, Kristi, and thank you, George, for doing the hard work that you do. Yeah. All right. Good night, people. God bless you.
Thank you, Gina.